here today with Jade Lawson. She is a phenomenal woman. I mean, doing the thing in the media space. She's a digital reporter and producer, amongst so many other things. So Jade, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Crystal, for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation.
Let's go back. So you went to Hampton University and you studied there, the Scripps Howard College of Communications. What made you want to, one, choose Hampton, and then two, study communications?
So those are really great questions. I vividly recall kind of just growing up and having a voice. Actually spoke to a group of Chicago high schoolers a couple of days ago, and pretty much I told them, like, I grew up in a household where my mother and my grandmother were very outspoken women. And being in that type of household and that type of environment, I was able to find a voice very early on, and kind of speak my mind and having a positive environment where it was received and reciprocated across the household. And so I was able to take that and really infiltrate it into my everyday life in school, growing up, in high school, etc. Student body president, or I ran for student body president. I was a junior class president, taking on a lot of different leadership roles. So I was always kind of involved in talking to people, getting along with people, running for different things. It was great. And so that was a way, I was running like social campaigns in high school and stuff. And so my parents were like, you're really good at this. And then I was also able to connect with a lot of my English teachers, and they were like, you have a really good niche for writing. Like, you are an incredible storyteller. And I had heard that from like 6th grade on up until like freshman year of college. And so that's kind of how I was able to lead my way into those things. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed media. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed connecting with people, telling their stories, hearing what they had to say and what they were doing. And that is how I was able to get into media. So then fast forward, most of my family had gone to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina, which is also an HBCU. So I grew up around HBCUs and I understood it and the importance of it. And it was going to be down to Winston-Salem State or Hampton or Howard. And Howard was in DC. And so I was like, it's a little bit far. But Hampton was right on. And it just felt like very homey, very down to earth. I was able to build connections with those professors, and they kind of took me on to these different places within the school. They got radio, they got journalism, they got a broadcast studio. So seeing those opportunities up close and personal meant a lot to me. And that is the reason why I chose Hampton. It's the best decision I made thus far.
Yeah, that's so funny because I remember, although I wasn't in communications, I do remember you always doing a lot, being involved, and really just shining brightly. And I think that you continue to do that even in your career now. So let's talk through like finding internships and then working your way up in that media space. What was that like for you?
It's a good question. I think that being as active and as involved as I was on campus, writing feature articles for the Hampton Script, being heavily involved as an anchor and executive producer on WHOV, building some of those relationships with older Hamptonians in order to kind of bridge that gap to go into my professional world was very important. And also relationships with my professors, which was also super, super important. Disney was coming on the yard. I want to say in 2016. It was 2016. I was finishing up junior year, going into senior year. And they came onto the yard that fall. And one of my professors was like, Disney's coming. I want you to be able to do this internship with them. And it was great because, I grew up watching ABC and all these things. And I just kind of connected very closely with one of the Disney hiring managers for that. And so she had offered me the spring internship. And I was like, I don't necessarily know if I want to miss my final semester of college. So can you push it to summer? And they were like, yes, like we would love to have you and all that stuff. But because of the relationship that I built, because I had taking some time to kind of get to know her and Arshawn, who I still talk to and keep in touch with the internship hiring managers. That was super important because they wanted me and I wanted to work there. I just wanted to work there during the summer rather than the spring. And then also kind of working with NBC Olympics during my sophomore into junior year, or maybe it was junior into senior year, whenever the 2016 Olympics rolled around. That again was a relationship that we had with one of our professors who was kind of saying our name at the table when we were not around. So it's incredibly important to kind of build those relationships because those are the ones that are going to be pushing your resume forward and making phone calls to see you succeed.
So I think you just said something very important, right? Like someone that will say your name in the rooms that you're not in. How important has that been as you've climbed the ladder, even at ABC?
Black women in the professional industry, it can be challenging, but we're not alone. I think that showing up authentically and authentically as yourself is probably the most important thing that you could possibly do. I think as far as raising your hand, right? And reaching out and getting to know people, not in a sense of like, I'm looking for opportunity, how can you help me? But more so of just kind of being curious and wanting to learn who these people are. What do these people do? Like, what do their family, who is your family? Like, what kind of stories do you like to tell? Those are some of the things that have helped progress me into some of the rooms, into meeting some of the people, into getting to know them. And that is a blessing in itself. And so I think making sure that people approach people, not in a sense of taking advantage of them, but really taking advantage of building something with them head on, in order so that they know you as a person rather than as somebody who's just taking taking advantage of them.
Right.
Ava DuVernay has mentioned in the past, people always walk up to her like, can you be my mentor? Can you be my mentor? And it doesn't necessarily work that way. You have to find the people that kind of align with you a little bit, find the people that align with you the most, and making sure that it is a genuine connection rather than what can you do for me.
It's so interesting. The producer of the Sherry show, I cannot remember his name at the moment, but he said,
yeah, he went to Hampton. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, what's his name? It's not Eric. It's something else. But I know who you're talking about.
So he said in an article, because he just got an award of some sort, and he said, I do not respond to people that say, hey, can I pick your brain? And I thought that was so funny because sometimes some people are they're like, hey, like I want to pick your brain, but it's really like you said, like finding somebody that aligns with you. And I think oftentimes too, like allowing it to organically happen, right? Like putting it out there, but like letting it grow organically really is what will help you get the most out of that relationship. Honestly.
100%. And it's also like, what could you possibly need to pick my brain about? Like find other avenues. People automatically get turned off with, hey, 5 minutes to chat. Can I pick your brain? You don't need to pick my brain. All of the resources that you have are at your disposal. You can always watch, you can listen, you can ask questions. But yeah, I agree. Picking your brain is just not the way to go sometimes.
Yeah, I was like weak. I was like, that's really funny.
He's not wrong. He is very real. So
yeah. And so what would you tell your younger self when coming into this? Because I know sometimes we can go into spaces like, I don't want to say overly confident, but like you got to kind of learn to read the room. So what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
First of all, social skills are a top IQ. Being able to read the room is a skill. Put it on your resume, learn how to perfect it. What would I tell my younger self? You will be fine. You're going to be stylish, fabulous. You're so cool. No, I'm totally kidding. That you're going to be okay. And that by being yourself is the number one way to go. Don't compare yourself to other people or what they've got going on social media. It's a lie. Who would have known when we were kids, especially millennials, we had no idea what social media was going to look like in 2023, in 2024. We don't know what it's going to look like in 2028. But comparison is the thief of joy, and you just got to focus on yourself, stay grounded, stay humble, stay hungry. And things will work out for you. And always keep your belief first, keep faith first, and trust that your path is going to be different than everybody else's.
You just said something that was so profound. Stay hungry. So, in that sense, what would you say keeps you hungry, keeps you showing up every day?
Um, I think within this industry, it's just the will to want to be able to tell these different stories. I think that's what keeps journalists passionate in general, right? Like, there is never really a time where we're able to turn it off because there are stories everywhere. You know, we wake up, we check Twitter, there are stories everywhere. There's things happening all the time. And so we are kind of responsible of informing the world and informing the public on what is happening across this country. And so if that does not keep you hungry, then honestly, the industry probably isn't for you. But yeah, I think, being able, I want to be able to tell what's going on in Florida or what's going on in Georgia, or, hey, did you see this new basketball game or something like that? Like, those are very important aspects in order for you to always want to go and succeed and kind of reach the highest of your potential that you possibly can.
So you just hit on something so important: integrity and storytelling. And it's kind of becoming, I feel like, increasingly more impossible because it's so accessible on social media, like all this information that people are dishing out. So, and misinformation, rather. So, what do you think will be the trajectory of journalism as we try to like combat this just misinformation and the accessibility? Like, where do you think it's going?
It is the state of journalism right now is incredibly scary. We've watched Pitchfork go down, Business Insider go down, Sports Illustrated's going down. Condé Nast laid off a trove of employees from different brands. The Athletic has made some adjustments. A lot of media companies right now are making adjustments or or laying off their employees altogether. They're making budget cuts, and it is scary because not everybody in this industry can do what it is that we do. There are people with social media accounts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're talking about. They're checking it, they're fact checking it before putting it out there. A lot of the times it's opinions, a lot of times it's rumors that they've heard from somebody else. So we are very much on a dangerous time right now when it comes to social media, information, misinformation. Where it goes in the next 5 to 10 years, I think a lot of us are still trying to figure it out. I think a lot of major television conglomerates are trying to figure out how we're going to handle journalism, streaming. Where are people going to get their information? Is it going to be strictly on social media? Can they go to streaming in order to get information that way? Will the next generation even want to go to a platform or a service in order to get that information? Or is everybody going to be okay with just spewing anything from social media platforms? So I think that we're in an unsure time. I think social media has been a blessing. It's also been a curse. But I think that as far as making sure that, putting the message out there, when you see something that's wrong, you flag it, you make sure that you kind of put that counter argument out there that is not indeed true, and continuing the will of the public, which is accuracy, and integrity with the storytelling that we do. About that, I've been talking about that with my peers, my colleagues. What do you tell the next generation? And I think that it's really looking at adding more skills into your toolbox. And even though that sucks because it's like we're already being asked to do so much, but how are you getting ready to combat AI? How are you getting ready to go up against streaming services? Can you incorporate streaming into your own box of skills and knowledge in order to take that into the real world and be useful to what people are looking for in fulfilling a need. And then also, some people have made a living by being able to do journalism on the side while also being able to do other skills, other industries, etc., in their real time. And so I think making sure that that this is something that you want to do and being able to capitalize off of it. But also we're seeing a new world where people are capitalizing off of it, right? Like, we're seeing partnerships, we're seeing people branding and other things with different social media platforms and things like that. So it is an option. It's just making sure that what you're doing with that branding, with that partnership, kind of still stays true to the integrity and the accuracy that journalism represents.
Right. That's great. And when I think about journalism and just the all-encompassing work that we do as journalists, I do almost feel like it has to be your life's work. This is not something you could just like hop into and like, because for me, I'm studying subjects like before I go to bed, when I get up in the morning, like it's a constant thing because it's a craft that has to be perfected. You have to learn how to do it. Even questioning, that's
Right.
also an art. So I think that's a good point that you made. Let's shift gears a little bit. So you also are the co-founder of Babs Productions. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that is, how did that start, and where it's going?
Yeah, Babs came up. It's a lot of fun. We started it in New York in an apartment in Harlem, with me and two very close friends. We were all working together at, GMA at the time, so it was late nights, and we were just like, I think I had seen Babs or something, and I was like, bro, we can like really make this and put it on a T-shirt or something. And my friend was like, why would we do that when we can like really put like efforts toward this, make it a production company? Like so many other people have taken things, we just seen with Ava, taking Array and turning it into a film distribution. Kerry Washington's doing the same. Hulu has an Onyx Collective. So she was like, why don't you take something that we're passionate about and really putting efforts and money to it? We have the skills, we have the knowledge. We just need a place for it, and we can create our own place in our own atmosphere. And really, it's for Black American princesses that are creating and inventing dope content and dope work. And so that was kind of us 5 years ago, kind of looking towards to the future of what are we going to do when we're done in this market? How will we pick up in the next 5 to 10 years and still be able to do what we love, but do what we love and have ownership and independence with it? So Babs was born, and it's kicking off and it's doing great. And we partner with people on projects. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But it was just really just a time for us to kind of create together. And it's something that we'll pick up later on in our lifetime.
So is it true? Have you found that, because this is a big argument about like working with your friends. So have you found it to be super successful? Have you found it to be like conditional in the day? Or?
Not gonna lie, we definitely have, we have arguments as any other business team or whatever, but I think reminding ourselves of looking at the bigger goal. These are not like major crazy arguments. We're not making millions of dollars right now, but it is, sometimes the social media arguments, or sometimes I'll just say disagreements, because we are indeed so passionate. But also remembering the reason why it was created, and remembering that it was to uplift Black women in this industry, in the film industry and production and television and media. And that is kind of what brings us back to the core. We're still friends. We just want the best for this platform and the organization. So we have our tizzies every now and again. But overall, it's really a joy to be able to work with people who have the same vision and the same goals as you.
So as an entrepreneur, what have you learned, and what advice would you give to someone that is aspiring to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think always remembering, look, being an entrepreneur is important. You have your independence, you have your own creativity, but also remembering that it is independent, and you are going to have to be the one going to get the extra funds. Everything comes back on you. There is no distributions, there is no help with this or that. You're in charge of distribution, media, marketing, promotions, all of that. And you have to be ready for that. But again, it's also rewarding because nobody can give you the notes or the feedback on content that you make, that you have ownership over, and that you control. And so that is super important. And that's some of the advice that I would give for the future.
I love that. Jade, thank you so much for your time. I found this conversation it's helping me. I'm like, I gotta get locked in. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, and good luck with everything, and congrats on everything.